In today's video, I want to give you a quick introduction on what to expect when you first sign up for the free version of the retirement budget calculator. I'll give you a quick walkthrough, show you how to enter some information, and then after this video, I'll show you how to unlock the premium features and all the additional bonus items that you get when you become a premium subscriber. But if you're ready, let's dive in. And the great thing about the retirement budget calculator is that it's a freemium tool. So you can use the timeline, the assets and liability to create your net worth, and the budget section. You can use that all for free. And so if you're getting ready for retirement, this can be a really powerful exercise just using the free version. So let me show you what I mean. So when you first come in, you're going to want to go to the timeline section, and you'll notice I've already entered information for Steve and Ann. Typically this would be blank, but we put Steve's information in here. He's a man, he's married, his birthday is August 1st, 1965. He's planning to retire on December 31st, 2030, and he lives in the state of Washington. And we're not going to make any adjustments to his life expectancy. We're going to leave that blank and just assume the Social Security mortality tables for life expectancy as a starting point. And then for Ann, same thing. So we're going to put her information in here. This is all hypothetical information. She's a female. She's married. Birthday is October 1st, 1965. She plans to retire December 31st, 2030. She also lives in Washington, and then we'll save that information. So you can see a couple things you're provided once you complete just the timeline section. You can see the years that they've each lived, the years to retirement, how many years they have until retirement, and then the estimated years that they're going to spend in retirement, and that's based on life expectancy. So you can see using the Social Security mortality tables, his life expectancy is age 82 and her life expectancy is age 85. We have some key dates down here that you want to be aware of. So you can see Steve, both of their retirement dates. The dates that IRAs are no longer subject to the 10% early withdrawal tax, which happens at 59 and a half. When they're first eligible for early Social Security, the date that they become eligible for Medicare when they turn 65, when they're eligible for their full Social Security without any reduction. The latest that they would want to start would be age 70 if they want those delayed retirement credits. So you can see what those dates are. The date that they become eligible for qualified charitable distributions, non-inherited RMDs, depending on when you were born. It's either going to be 72, 73, or 75, and it tells you when those RMDs have to start. And then also it tells you the year of life expectancy based on the basics of the mortality tables. Okay, so now that we've got the timeline, let's move to the next section, which are assets and liabilities. So you can see the next thing you're going to do is you're going to click here where it says assets and liabilities, and this is where you can create a net worth for yourself. So there's nothing populated in here at first, so when you click on it you'll see there's nothing there. To add something to your liquid assets are the types of accounts that you would spend in retirement. So IRAs, 401ks, brokerage accounts, HSAs, bank CDs, bank checking accounts. So let's just say that they have a checking account, and we're going to say they have a balance of $10,000 in their checking. The type of account is checking. The ownership, it's a jointly owned account. It's low risk. The acquisition date really only is the most important for assets that are going to be inherited at a future point. So you don't have to worry about the acquisition date. We don't need to assign a withdrawal order at this point. And for the rate of return, the default is 4%. So since this is a checking account, we're going to say, let's just say they get 0% on their checking account. And then we'll also add one more account. We'll say that they have a 401k. And so we'll say they have 500,000 in a 401k. Now, if you're getting close to when you have to start taking required minimum distributions, you can enter the end of the year balance from last year. That way the RMD calculations will be more precise. You can also enter any withdrawals that you've already taken for the year. So if you're doing this mid-year and you've already taken some money out of your accounts, that way the tax estimates are going to be closer, so you can enter information there. In this case, we said it's a 401k account. Choosing the correct account type is important because that's going to help to decide things like required minimum distributions, and it's also going to help with things like the taxation of that money coming out of those accounts. In this case, we'll say that the money belongs to Steve, and we'll say it's invested with moderate risk. And again, the acquisition date doesn't really matter because this is something they own. So we're creating this model in 2025. So we'll just leave it as January 1st, 2025. We won't change the withdrawal order, and we won't change the default rate of return on this one. We'll just keep it at the 4%. A couple other things I'll show you while we're here. If you ever need to delete an asset, you can just come here to delete an item. If you want to archive an item, so you don't want it to show up anymore, but you want to keep track that it was there at one time, you can archive items right here. So we're going to hit save. So now you can see their liquid assets are $510,000. And if you click on this little blue arrow, this is how you can edit the different entries that you make in the calculator. And you can go through and you can continue adding the different types of accounts that you have. Once you enter all of your liquid assets, the next thing you can do, now you can do things like Roth conversions right here. We're not going to build that out for now, but we do want to put information in about their primary residence. So we're going to say they have a primary residence. It's valued at $480,000. It's jointly owned. We're going to say that's low risk, and we'll say that real estate grows at 2% per year just to be really conservative with the growth of that asset. We won't put any personal property in, but if you have things like computer equipment, electronics, furniture, jewelry, tools, other property, we have some template data for you. For other assets, you can put things in cars or any other assets, motorcycles, anything else you have, a business if you own a business. And then for liabilities, let's say that they do still have a home loan. So we're going to say that they owe $200,000 still on the house. We're going to say that's at 3.25%. They got this interest rate when things were still really low. And we'll say that's going to be paid off. Now notice you have some dates here. So you can say at the latest life expectancy, at Steve's life expectancy, at Steve's retirement, but we don't want to do that. We want to choose the calendar option. And instead of saying that it's going to be paid off, let's just go out 20 more years. We'll say they have let's go out 15 more years. We'll say they go out to the year 2040. So we'll say June. Now you can change this. You can say June 1st of 2040. We're going to save that. And then it says, would you like to add a payment expense for this liability? So if you hit yes, it's going to open up this new dialog box. And you can say, oh, my monthly payment, we'll just say it's $2,500 a month. And you pay that monthly. It's an essential expense, meaning that if you don't pay it, they take the house away. So we want to mark that as essential. Say it's jointly owned, so that you're both responsible for it. And then the designated payment account. If you plan on paying an account from or paying off a loan from a specific account, you can use this feature down here. But for now, we'll just leave it blank. So now we've added their assets and liabilities. So you can see when you add up their liquid assets, their real estate, and then subtract their liabilities, they have a net worth of $790,000. This is a really important number in retirement, understanding your net worth. And down here, you'll notice here we have it laid out as liquid real estate. Total assets minus liabilities gives them a net worth of $790,000. We have a feature called snapshots. So every month you can come in and you can say, okay, I want to update these values, or you can do this daily if you wanted to, but I want to update these values based on how things currently look. And when you do that, it gives you the ability to compare your numbers over time so you can see how things are changing. We have your asset and liability history, so you can see how the values are changing over time. We break it down and show you just the liquid assets. We show you how your money's allocated, so you can see they have a little bit low risk and most of their money's in moderate risk. We show you the tax allocation, so some of it's in a taxable checking account, most of it's in a tax deferred retirement plan. And then we provide a net worth report. So if you want to print a report off maybe once a month and just have something that you can keep in a binder that kind of shows what your net worth is, that's available to you as well. Okay, now before I go to the budget section, let me show you one more thing here. Up above, we have the calculator, of course. We have the community portal. So this is how you can connect with other people using the calculator to answer questions. Right here, this is where you can go to account settings, So if you need to change your email, or if you want to set up multi-factor authentication, that's where you're going to do those types of things under the account settings. If you click here on Unlock RBC Premium, it's going to show you the different plans that are available to you. So you can pay $9.95 a month, or if you choose to sign up yearly, you can pay annually. Now these numbers might change in the future, but right now that's what they are. So you select the premium plan, and then you can go through the process of checking out once you've done that. The next part that we're going to go to is your budget data. Your budget, I think, is the most important number in a good retirement plan, because what it's going to look at is the income that you have coming in versus the expenses that you have going out. And you can see we have this organized by annual budgets, monthly budgets, month budget, monthly budgets, budget report, so if you want to print out your budget, and then also your budget history. So just like with assets and liabilities, you could come in every month or maybe once a year and update how your spending's changing. That way you can start to get a feel for the real impact that inflation's having on your expenses over time. In their case, let's just say that they're going to have Social Security income as their only income for now. So we're going to say it's $2,500 a month, and that's going to be in Steve's name. The type of income is Social Security, because we do the income tax calculations on the Taxes tab, which is a premium feature, but that's why you want to choose the correct income type here. For the start date, we're going to say that this starts at his full Social Security age. So when we choose age 67, it's going to be August 1st of 2032 when that starts. And then the default inflation is 3% on Social Security, so we're going to leave that alone. And then the only other income, we'll add one more. We'll just say that they currently have a job, and let's say he's making $8,000 a month. It's owned by Steve, and its wages, salaries, and tips is the income type. And we're going to say that's currently happening, and when it's going to end is at Steve's retirement. So when Steve retires on December 31st of 2030, that income's going to end, and we'll say that goes up with 3% inflation as well. So now you can see we have Social Security income that's going to start in a future point. There's nothing here now because it hasn't started yet. If you click here and you go down to 2037, you can see now wages and salaries and tips are 0, but Social Security has now started for them. So this is the way that you can look out into the future, so you can start to model and see how things are going to change. Up here we have a slide bar, so you can look at the year 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30. We've got the monthly budget, so you can look at January, February, March. Of course, not all of your expenses happen every month, and so you really get the detail and the granularity in the calculator. The monthly budget shows you for 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028. You can slide through and look at all the different years. And then, of course, your budget report. So if you want to be able to print this off and have a printed version of your budget report. Deductions and contributions are going to be things like 401k or union dues. So anything that's going to reduce your income. I'm not going to enter any of those now, but if you have money that's reducing your wages and going into a 401k, that's an area that you can enter that. Tax withholdings, again, you can enter things like federal income tax or Social Security tax, Medicare tax. I'm not going to enter any of this, but you can get that information by looking at your pay stub. In their case, we're saying that they have this loan payment. That's their mortgage payment. Remember, we entered that when we entered the asset, so it already has a payoff date associated with it. And then the only other thing that we'll add for them is we'll say that they spend on groceries $1,200 a month, and we'll say that's essential expenses, and it's going to go up with 3% inflation, so we'll save that. So we'll just add that one expense. Now, we've got a lot of different template data in here for you to trigger your memory and help you think about the different expenses you might have. And of course, if we don't have the specific expense, you can just call it other and call this whatever you want. So you could say a subscription. So if you have Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, you can add those subscription costs in here. You enter the dollar amount, you say what the frequency is. So is it something that happens only one time? Does it happen weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, quarterly, yearly? Or you can do a custom budget. So you can say it happens once every year on the 15th of the month, and it's going to happen in January of every year. Or you can say it's going to happen in January and May. So it's going to happen now it's going to happen twice. On January and May 15th of every year, you're going to have this expense, and we'll just say it's a custom expense for $100. It's an essential expense. It's jointly owned. When you assign ownership, what that means is, and this is important, any expenses that are tied to a specific person will end at that person's life expectancy. So if it's an expense that you want to continue for both people's lifetime, you would call it a joint expense. But if your wife takes classes and when she passes away, those classes will end, you could tie the expense to her life expectancy. Or maybe you have a travel budget and you want to model, most of the time men die before their wives, so we could tie it to his life expectancy so that when he dies, the travel budget comes to an end because she's not going to want to travel alone. You can say when that expense starts, so if it starts now or if it starts in the future, you can do that. You can put end dates on these expenses, which is really nice. So, maybe you're going to travel for the first 10 years of retirement and then you're going to stop that expense or reduce it down. That could be something that you model by having end dates on those expenses. You can say how much you think inflation is going to be for different expenses. So some you might have at 3%, some might have at 0%, some expenses might increase at 5%. So you can assign a different inflation factor to each expense. And then of course you can choose a designated payment account if you want that expense to come from a specific account. Now you'll notice we entered this as $100, but we're saying it happens twice a year. So it shows us here the annual expense is $200. Now up here we can choose monthly or annual. So if you wanted to break the expenses down to an average to see what it's costing on average per month, you can do that. And then the next two tabs, the taxes and the retirement optimizer, these are premium features that are not available until you unlock your premium features. So that's only supported through the paid subscription. But you get a ton of value for free in the retirement budget calculator. You get your timeline, which helps you with life expectancy. You get your assets and liabilities, which helps you with your net worth. And you can create a budget or a spending plan in retirement, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's your spending that's going to determine if you've saved enough money to support that spending throughout your lifetime. And that's how the base model of retirement budget calculator works. Now, a couple of assumptions that are made. First of all, we assume expenses are going to increase at 3% per year. You can override that and say 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You can put anything you want in there, but our baseline assumption is 3% per year for inflation. We assume your investable assets are going to grow at 4% per year. Now, again, you can put a different rate of return in there. If you unlock the premium features, you can also do things like Monte Carlo. You can use historical rates of return to see how portfolios would have performed historically using historical rates of return. So you've got a lot of options. You can assign different rates of returns to different types of accounts so that you can really get very specific, very detailed on your retirement planning. And one of the things that I've learned is that the more specific you are, the more confidence you're going to have. This is a good thing. Now, it does take a little bit of time to get the information in there, but ultimately, spending a little bit of time up front is going to give you a lot more confidence down the road. You'll notice you also have a base model. With the retirement budget calculator, you can create up to 3 models. And then when you unlock the premium features, you also have scenarios. And I'll show you in another video how scenarios work. But ultimately, what we're just trying to do is help you ask questions about your retirement. What if we need long-term care? Or what if we want to do qualified charitable distributions? Or what if we want to do Roth conversions? Or what if somebody dies early? Or what if we retire early? And any of these questions that you might be thinking about, we want to build that into the models so you can ask these different questions. You can do these what if scenarios to see really what's going to serve you the best as you're preparing for retirement. So that's a quick overview. I probably went a little bit longer than I wanted to for the free version, but if you have any comments or questions, type them below this video and I'll be sure to answer those for you. Now, if you're still in the retirement research phase, like you're not actually using tools to model your future yet, you might still be in the learning phase about retirement planning. And I want to encourage you, one of the things that I've been working on now for quite some time is sound retirement planning, sound retirement radio. This is a podcast that you can listen to. We have currently 456 episodes available. We have a little more than 2 million downloads of the podcast at this point. And so this is a resource for you to learn about retirement. If you're not quite ready to really dive into the numbers, but you're still in learning mode, that can be a good way, a good resource for you. Or you could do both. You could have the calculator to crunch the numbers, and you can listen to the podcast to get the education. Okay, thanks so much. Hope you found this helpful.